everyone. Welcome back to Strange Minds 6. I'm your host, Ruby, and today we're going to be reading a historical comic. It's called The Stonewall Riots Making a Stand for LGBTQ Rights by Archie, Bongiovanni, and A. Andrews. But before we begin, please grab your snacks, grab your drinks, or sit back and relax. And let's get to this. First, a confession. I was not at Stonewall on June 28th, 1969, even though I was a 20-year-old out college student who lived in New Jersey and spent a great deal of time in Greenwich Village socializing and hanging out with gay friends. I did not happen to be there that fateful night. I was probably with friends somewhere farther uptown in Manhattan, seeing a movie and having a hamburger after. If only world-shaking events could be scheduled and announced in advance, I certainly would have been at the Stonewall Inn. That night was an explosion of passion, excitement, rage, and anger. And as is often the case with defining moments in history, it might have seemed to come out of nowhere, but was the result of long simmering problems. The Stonewall Riots, which some more accurately prefer to call uprising or insurrections, as they were political in nature, became the more important moment in contemporary LGBT history. They were revolutionary, completely changing how we think. In that moment, LGBT people began to see themselves as a powerful political force capable of changing society for the better. For many LGBT people, it was the first time they could truly be open about who they wanted to date, how they wanted to dress, and how they wanted to live their lives. They saw that coming out as whoever you really were was not only okay, but also necessary if they were to push for more equitable world. The explosion of energy that put Stonewall on the map had been simmering for decades. Since 1950, national groups such as the Metuchen Society and Daughters of Bilitis had promoted community and safety for gay men and lesbians, at times organizing protests to bring attention to injustice, beginning in 1965 and lasting until 1969. The annual reminders were a series of pickets held every July 4th in front of Philadelphia's Independence Hall, demanding rights for homosexuals. There had been spontaneous resistance to police brutality, like when men who cross-dressed, known as transvestites, we don't use that anymore, that terminology, at the time, battled with police harassing them at Compton's Cafeteria in San Francisco, Tenderloin District in August 1966. There are all important events in the struggle for LGBT rights. So, what made the events at Stonewall so different? Part of the answer is the unique historical climate in which these events occurred. The 1960s were a time of incredible political and social change in the United States. You couldn't miss it. Headlines in every newspaper shouted out that America was changing and old ideas were being challenged. The counterculture musical groups such as the Rolling Stones and the Beatles liberated American youth through celebration of new sexual freedoms, hippies, and more easily available, although still illegal, marijuana. Radical feminism demanded that women be free to choose their own lives rather than live in the shadow of men. Grassroots action groups, such as the Black Panthers and the Young Lords, a Latinx activist group, engaged in community organizing, fought discrimination, and battled police brutality. During this same time, hundreds of thousands of American citizens began protesting the U.S. government's war in Vietnam, which was killing thousands of U.S. soldiers and millions of Vietnamese people. All across our country, people were fighting for their sexual freedom, for liberation from misogynist attitude and laws, and against pervasive racial violence, discrimination, and a war that was universally condemned by more by most other countries. So on the summer night in 1969, the angry crowd at the Stonewall Inn was very aware of the battles being fought. In fact, many had participated in at least one of them, and the people saw their fight that night as part of the radical changes that illuminated the American landscape, calling out for new freedoms. At marches, banners, and posters proclaimed the words of Martin Luther King Jr. No one is free until we are all free. The rest of the country also saw Stonewall as part of a larger liberation movement to make America freer and safer for many more people. Days after the Stonewall Riots, many activists met and formed the Gay Liberation Front. I may have missed the uprising at the Stonewall Inn, but I immediately began attending Gay Liberation Front meetings and have been involved in LGBT politics and writing ever since. The changes over the past half century have also been monumental. Queer people no longer have to live quietly. We don't have to meet at gay bars in order to find someone to date. We can do it in public, at local coffee shops, and of course online. There are now gay straight alliances in middle schools and high schools, in colleges, where young people can get support and make friends. The unethical and inhumane practice of so-called conversion therapy is now banned in 20 states and more will do so eventually. Same-sex marriage is finally legal in the United States, and romantic acts between people of the same gender are no longer crimes, as had been the case since the foundation of our country. Despite all the progress, there is still a lot more to be done. Many states still allow discrimination against LGBT people. Violence against lesbian and gay men is ever present and on the rise. Violence against trans people, particularly trans women of color, is reaching epidemic proportions. As such, things have improved. Not all schools, workplace, or even parents are as accepting as they should be. The message of Stonewall in 1969 and now is that we want to see change in the world, we must fight. But there is another message that is equally important that this book beautifully illustrates. We must acknowledge our history, reflect on the people who came before us, preserve their stories and pass them along. As James Baldwin, an African American author and a gay man, wrote in 1965, the great force of history comes from the fact that we carry it within us, are unconsciously controlled by it in many ways, and history is literally present in all that we do. Everything you do and say now to make the world a better place will be history, as important as anything that happened at Stonewall. Michael Bronski, Harvard professor and author of A Queer History of the United States for Young People. Getting to the comics. In a building above a bodega, someone says, "At least it's not as dirty as I thought it was going to be." Come on, abuelita. It's nice and temporary. Mom and I will help you move back in with us once she's done working overseas. Yeah, Miss Carmen, I like it. Just look at your view. You can see all of New York from here. Although it does have a funny smell. You kids aren't going to visit an oldie like me now that I'm here. Rashad, you'll be flirting all the time. Who, me? And Jax, poor bookworm Jax, you're just going to be reading all the time. Probably, yeah. Natalia, you'll be wrapped up with school. Straight A's don't earn themselves, abuelita. I'm going to wilt away alone. Me and Rocky, all alone. Miss Carmen, of course we're going to keep visiting you. You might be Natalia's grandma, but you're really a grandma to all of us. Yeah, Miss Carmen. Plus, this place is actually closer to my subway stop. It'll be easier now. Also, at this rate, we'll be unpacking for so long we'll never leave. Hand me that box. Let me help. Wow, abuelita, who is this? I was so young. That's me in 1969. Quite scandalous at the time, the two of us. And who is that? Why, my girlfriend before I met your grandpa. Your girlfriend? My girlfriend. Why didn't you tell me? You didn't ask. If I had known, I'd have invited you to join our gender and sexuality alliance at school. Oh, one moment, guys. Why was it scandalous? Homosexuality, bisexuality, being gay, being transgender, it just wasn't accepted at the time. We couldn't be out like people are today. There was no gender and sexuality alliance. There were no cell phones with apps or groups where you could find other LGBTQ people. I wasn't out to, well, to anyone really. It wasn't impossible to find one another, but it was a lot more underground. What about Great Aunt Lucia or Uncle Thomas? Nope, I told them later, but telling them in the 1960s wasn't an option. I was scared to come out too. I was nervous my family wouldn't accept me. Exactly, Rashad. I could get rejected from my family and my friends. If you were gay, you could lose your job. You could be beaten, assaulted, arrested. The police don't arrest people for being gay. Well, they did back then. Being gay was something people thought as sick and that it needed to be cured. We had to hide who we were. Homosexuality was illegal in all 50 states until 1962. We could get sent to therapists to get straightened out. If police arrested us, they'd print our names and faces in the newspaper, outing us to everyone. We had to find each other in secret. Sounds rough, I guess. It was nothing to scoff at, Rashad. You have no cell phone, Rashad. No computer, no texting. You couldn't just go online to find other queer people. The technology we use today to seek each other didn't exist. Also, uglier clothes. But it couldn't have been that bad. It was, though. It wasn't safe to be queer in public. You had to be secretive about it. You know how you work after school in the library? Yes. In the 1960s, if your boss found out that you were gay or did not fit into the traditional roles of male or female that everyone was expected to follow, you could lose your job. But, but that's not fair. And Natalia, my beautiful, smart granddaughter, being a trans woman in the 1960s was particularly dangerous. Not only would you face discrimination from jobs and family, but the threat of violence was real. Honestly, things are still really intense. Nothing scares me. As for me, I hid who I was from family and employers. For much of my life, I lacked the community of being around other queer folks, and when I did find community, it was mostly underground. You all are so lucky to have found each other so young. This is ridiculous. I'm just going to ask where we can find other LGBT folks. It can't be that hard. Rashad, don't wander off on your own. Excuse me, my kind sirs. Any idea where a handsome young man might find, like myself, might find other handsome young men? Or, women and non binary folks? See, we're looking for other LGBTQ people to kick it with. Non binary? LGBTQ? You're not familiar with those terms? Since it's the 1960s, huh? Let me spell it out. We're trying to make new gay friends, form a community with other homosexuals. You get my drift? Cool, cool. So it looks like maybe you don't know where the nearest gay community center is, so I'm just gonna go. Way to go, Rashad. How was I supposed to know they were homophobes? Those folks are a bunch of queers. I think it's safe to say maybe everyone is homophobic in this time period, unless stated otherwise. Let's get out of here. I don't want to run. I'm proud of who I am. They don't scare me. Natalia, I have no interest in getting beat up today. Isn't there a place we can hide? Ah, come on, I know where to go. Just because it was hard to find other LGBTQ folks in 1960s doesn't mean it was impossible. Kids, welcome to the Stonewall Inn. This looks like a dungeon. Actually, it's a bar, but it's more than that. The Stonewall Inn is a safe haven for folks like us, a space that allows us to let loose and be ourselves and just relax a little. Great. I could use some relaxing after all of that running. They go into the inn, into the bar, and see other LGBTQ people. 3 sodas, please. Ah, home sweet home. This is amazing. So many people. Why were you so scared all the time if this place exists? Don't you mean so many cute people? Please, we're scared here too. Last week, Stonewall Inn was raided by the police. It was? Yup. Coming in, making sure we weren't breaking the three-piece law by wearing too many items of clothing of the opposite gender. Luckily, though, this place is run by the mafia, specifically the Genovese family, and they bribed the police. There shouldn't be another raid this week. The what? The mafia bribing police? I honestly thought that the police would stop homophobic acts. Ha! I wish I was as innocent as you. Hey, Marcia, this person thinks the police will help us homosexuals from being attacked. Is that so? See this? Police did this to me last Tuesday during the raid. He's right. The police won't help you out here. Is this place safe? I think you should learn that nowhere is really safe for us. Not yet, but we have each other's backs. When I was growing up, my mom said I was lower than a dog for being who I am, a gay drag queen. You know what they call me now? The mayor of Christopher Street. They call me Saint Marcia because I'm so generous. Give me $2 and I'll turn right around and give it to someone else who needs it. I know who I am, and it doesn't bother me if other folks don't get it. Sometimes other gay people don't even understand me. Too loud, too eccentric, you know how it is. Hi, I'm Natalia. I'm Marcia P. Johnson. What does the P stand for? Pay it no mind. That's how I feel. Don't pay me, my gender, or my folks any mind. We're here living and taking care of each other the best we can. Cheers, Natalia. Enjoy Stonewall Inn. There's no running water in the back bar, and it smells kind of bad, but the music is good and the crowd is better. Hear, hear. Clink. I think we should go. Maybe hide out somewhere else. Relax, Jax. There's a lot of cute people here we could be flirting with instead of worrying. All this talk about the cops and the mafia is freaking me out. I think we should lay low for a while. And do what exactly? Hide away forever? Y'all, meet Sylvia Rivera. I don't want to just sit around and wait until the harassment ends. I want us to be treated like human beings. I, for one, am tired of being treated badly. Lots of us here. We're ready to fight back. We've got nothing to lose. Others are pushing back too. The Black Power movement, the women liberationists, the young lords, the anti-war protests, they've shown the actions, they've shown that actions can mean something, that they can create change and get attention. We're ready to fight for our rights too. I get made fun of in school, but I get scared a lot. But I don't think I've ever experienced anything like you two. Don't worry, Natalia. Marcia and I have plans. The two of us, with some of our friends, we're creating a place called the Star House. We're gonna set up a house for the kids, the street kids. No one else may care about them, but we do. Marcia and I want liberation for all of our people. Wow, don't look so starstruck. We like to have fun too. Let's go pick out some songs from the jukebox. As they pick the songs out and they start dancing. Don't get me wrong, I am thankful for Greenwich Village. It's a lot better to be gay or lesbian here than elsewhere, but I want us to be able to be out everywhere. I'm tired of living a double life. I'm ready to be out to everyone. It's just not fair. Are you listening, Rashad? I am not. I'm sorry, Craig. I just think you're so cute I got distracted. I haven't really given much thought on how hard the past was for our queer folks. My main thought is getting to know you. Getting to know my struggle is getting to know me. Yes, but I'm more interested in knowing if you're single. Wow, you are bold, handsome, charming, and funny. The word I was looking for is selfish. As everyone continues to dance and play pool, a police officer enters. You got a liquor license for this place? The bartender replies, Well, no, but the cops came a few days ago. My boss, he should have paid you off. We are a different beat. Turn those lights on. Everybody outside. I said everyone outside. Oh no, what day is it? Come on, Jax. We need to get out of here before things escalate. Miss Carmen, I've got my rights. I've got my civil rights. Marcia, Sylvia, not you. You stay inside. What's happening? A raid. This isn't fair. We're not doing anything wrong. We're just trying to dance and have fun. Quiet and stay with the rest. You're a bold one. I'm Stormy de la Verrier. I know I'm butchering that name wrong, and I am so sorry. The cops are gonna check us and arrest us for not wearing enough items of clothing for the correct gender. You mean you'll be arrested because you're in a suit? Probably, but hey, I'll distract them and you sneak out. I'm not gonna leave you. all. This is wrong. This shouldn't be allowed. I'm not asking if you can sneak out, kid. I'm telling you to sneak out. Now go. Excuse me, officer. This really isn't necessary. And there starts the riot. Pigs! What's going on? Jax! Rashad! Why is everyone just hanging around outside? Didn't you hear the cops? The party's over. It's not over. There's still people inside. I wish we were a little farther away from the police. I need to watch what happens. Keeping an eye out for each other keeps us safe. I wish I had a cell phone right now to film these cops. Oh no. Oh, this is bad. What was I thinking bringing us here tonight of all nights? Rocky, can you find Natalia and Rashad? What's going on? Stonewall Inn is being raided by the cops. Apparently, they keep targeting gay bars. Well, that's just wrong. You don't have any place to go. The cops should be ashamed of themselves. Well, I say good for the cops. We don't need any more gays in this neighborhood. Jax, I made a terrible mistake. This is not the night to be at the Stonewall Inn. Let's just get out of here. We can't go until we find Natalia and Rashad. We can't leave them behind. As the other people start saying things, cruel things, such as, these targeted raids have got to stop. Stop bullying homosexuals. Get these homosexuals out of here. Arrest them all. Shut down the bar. What's happening? Just gonna arrest a bunch of homosexuals again? Hey cop, you want your bribe? Well, here it is. Ow! A penny? Hey, stop throwing those coins. Here's your payoff, cop. As there are more pennies being thrown. Only respect for our brothers in blue. Gay power. As they're on top of the cop car, they yell it louder and louder. Gay power. Cowards, let her go. Get off of me. Gay power. Cops are cowards. Why don't you do something? Let go of me. As they start to arrest people. Equality for homosexuals. Gay power. Hey, get in. Here, equality for homosexuals. This is getting bad. We gotta go. What? No way. This is history. We're fighting back. I didn't sign up for this. All we want to do is live our lives and make memes on our phones. But the cops won't get off our backs. Oof. What's a meme? We are the Stonewall girls. We wear our hair in curls. Carmen, Rocky can't find Natalia or Rashad. Hey, this isn't helping. Rioting isn't going to do anything. Miss Carmen, we gotta get out of here. Miss Carmen? You're coming with us. Miss Carmen! Oof! Where'd this bird come from? Rocky, stay with them. Stay with Jax. I'll be okay. Sigh. as Jax looks around. Gay power! Jax! Natalia! Natalia, we've got to go. Go now? Yes, it's not safe. We've gotta hide somewhere. I'm not hiding, ever. Please, Natalia. All this is doing is destroying property and getting the cops more angry. This is important than property, Jax. We have to resist. We can resist somewhere else, somewhere quiet, somewhere safe. I'm not a coward. You go hide if you're scared. All right now, we're really in trouble. As the police start brutally hitting people, Rashad runs down the street. Now it's my time. It's our time. I've been protesting and marching before for others. We did something tonight for us, for transgender people, for gays and lesbians, for bisexuals, for our own people. We're called animals. We're called the lowest scum on earth. Things are changing. Did you know this was actually my first night at Stonewall? And what a night it was! The newspaper writes, Village raid stirs melee. 3 cops hurt as bar raid riles crowd. Hostile crowd dispersed near Sheridan Square. This newspaper, it hates us and is pro-pig. I don't read the newspaper, Craig. It's too depressing. I'll bet the reporters didn't see what they did to Stonewall. I bet the cops didn't talk about how they smashed everything, everyone in sight. You know, the cops didn't tell the reporters that they stole money out of the cash register. Of course the cops didn't say anything. They're cops. If they close up all the gay joints in this area, there's going to be an all-out war. Every time we find a place, a new bar, a new spot to gather, the cops break it up. We never bothered anybody. We can't just They can't just leave us alone. I'm going back there tonight. I'm going back to Stonewall to continue the protest. hmm Are you listening? Yes, of course. Sure, what was I saying? Something about Stonewall. Come on, Rashad. Don't you care? Of course I care. But it's so depressing. So much fighting for such little progress. We make the progress we can so future generations can have it a little easier. Listen, I've been to the future. The same struggles are still going on. Cops still terrorizing communities. You've been to the future? Actually, never mind. I don't want to know. I do know that progress for freedom doesn't just happen out of thin air. It comes from years of resisting oppression, years of fighting the man. Any progress that happens means that someone else had to fight hard for it. We have to keep at it until change is made, even if it takes years. And don't you want to fight for other marginalized communities as well? We need to be united in fighting oppression for everyone, not just ourselves. I guess I hadn't really thought about it that way. I always want to be a comrade for others. Wait, where are you going? You're cute, but I need someone who can imagine a brighter future. As Rashad steps on the newspaper, he thinks back to what happened the night before. Thinks back to people saying, I just want you to know that sometimes being a homosexual can be a real pain. But being a homosexual and living your life is always worth it. Yesterday, someone says, I was going to places you had to already know someone to enter, where you had to speak to someone through a peephole in order to get in, and now here we are, just out in the streets. Yeah, I don't know about this big of a gathering. All of us in one place doesn't seem smart to me. But isn't it beautiful to see us all here together, showing up for each other? Yes, but I can't help but be concerned. It's dangerous to flaunt it. Come on and see what the pigs have done to us. We're honest businessmen. We're American-born boys. We run a legitimate joint here. Ain't nothing being done wrong in this place. Everybody come and see. We don't deserve this. Nobody does. Marcia! Hey, Marcia! Natalia, you okay after last night? Yes, I'm okay. I came back because I can't find my friends. I thought if I came back to the last place I saw them, we'd be able to find each other. But there's a lot more people than yesterday. It's so different from last night. Everyone's being so out about who they are. No one is ashamed. There was never anything to be ashamed of in the first place. Excuse me, but what's going on? We're not from New York, but wanted to see what all the fuss was about. Tourists? Why, it's the gay revolution. Oh no, the cops are back. We'll see what I can, well, we'll see what I can do about that. As Marcia climbs a pole. Natalia, come look at this. Fires being started in trash cans. Police brutality breaks out more and more. Here, take this. Someone gives Natalia a paper. What's this? Get the mafia and the cops out of the gay bars. I'm Fred Sargent, and I made these leaflets with my partner, Craig Rodwell. It calls for gay people to own their own establishments. It asks for a boycott of the Stonewall and other mafia-owned bars. It calls us all to put public pressure on the mayor's office to investigate the police raids and the pushback against homosexuality. This isn't the time for a newspaper. People's bodies are on the line. Yes, and it's an important time to spread information. We gather in secret so often, but here tonight, there's hundreds of gay folks out all at once. We need to think about new ways we can revolutionize society's opinions of homosexuality. Tonight, I can reach hundreds of people, some gay, some not, and let them know that the fight is continuing even after these riots end. I can let them. Oh, excuse me, guys. Sorry about that, everyone. But let's continue and get back to the book. I didn't think about it that way, Natalia says. Wow, organizing must have been so hard before the internet. The inner what now? No way, Rocky. We're not going back into that mess. As some ladies pass by, they just wanted to be left alone. I don't know what they do inside, but that's their business. I was never in there myself. It was just awful when the police came. It was like a swarm of hornets attacking a bunch of butterflies. A bunch of sinners and criminals acting out. You got nothing good. You know nothing good is going to come from this. Nothing is going to change. Squawk! As Rocky hits the person. What? Whose bird is this? It's worth it, though, isn't it? What was that, kid? It's worth trying to make a difference, to be visible and change people's perspectives. Everyone out there, they're trying to create change. As the two men look at each other and start laughing. I don't know where you got that idea, kid, but all this ruckus is doing is making us look bad. I used to think about how easy my life would be if I could just be a homosexual in public, if I could have a relationship without it being a secret, if I could be out and not worry about losing my job, but I don't want it if it's gonna look like this. Those people, they're blocking traffic. They're stopping the hard-working people from getting home. They're stopping cops from doing their jobs. Listen, we might be homosexuals too, but we're not like that. We play by the rules. We're quiet. We don't cause trouble. All the rioting is gonna do is get a lot of people beaten up and arrested. And it's a big inconvenience for a lot of folks as well. Stay quiet, hidden, stay safe. That's what I say. But there's people who can't stay hidden, who don't want to stay hidden. That isn't our problem. And it's not your problem either. It is my problem. It's all of our problem. I'm going to help. I want to make a difference. Because if we don't stand up and make change happen, change won't happen. No one should have to live their life in secret or constantly being discriminated against. That's not fair for me or for any of the other people protesting. And it's not fair to you either. As Jax sees Natalia getting arrested, he ends up hitting the officer with his cane. Jax, oof, you came back. To be honest, I'm scared to be here, but I don't need to be brave all the time. Sometimes I just need to show up in whatever way I can, even if it's terrifying. Natalia, Jax, over here. I'm so glad I was able to find you two. It's even more crowded than it was yesterday. Tonight is more violent, too. I thought if I ignored all the bad stuff, I could just relax and have a good time at Stonewall. But I realized I can't have fun if other people are being discriminated against. There's no fun in that. If only there was a way to have fun while fighting for everybody's freedom. Oh, don't worry. Queer folks are great at fighting for equality and having a great time while doing it. Miss Carmen, Abuelita! I thought you were arrested. Arrested? Yes, yes, yes. I'm fine. Well, a little bruised, but they released me today. Break it up. As much fun as going down memory lane has been, it's time for us to get out of here. What? Leave now? Natalia, tonight is going to be even more violent, and there'll be more riots tomorrow. I don't want to go. I want to stay and help. There's so much to do here. These Stonewall riots are turning to a point in a long fight for equality. But even in the present day, we still have a long way to go. The fight isn't over. The Stonewall riots weren't even the start of it all. Cooper Donuts was a 24-hour donut shop where one of the first queer uprisings in the United States took place in 1959. The police enter and asks for IDs. Anyone whose sex on their ID doesn't match the clothes they're wearing is getting taken to jail. LGBT customers were targeted by the cops and they resisted. In 1965, a hamburger joint called Dewey's refused service to anyone they perceived as gay, transgender, or gender non-conforming. 3 teenagers staged a sit-in where they refused to leave until they were arrested. The next week, they partnered with activist Clark Pollock and the Janus Society and handed out more than 1,500 leaflets about the incident and staged another sit-in. Eventually, Dewey's stopped refusing service to folks. When a cop was rough to a trans woman in 1966 during a raid at Compton's cafeteria, she threw coffee directly in his face. More than 60 people fought back. There were other uprisings, some loud, some quiet. It's important to note that resistance happened all across America. There are all kinds of ways to resist homophobia and transphobia, and we may only know a few of the stories, but rest assured, there were hundreds of small but vital forms of resistance happening before, during, and after Stonewall. The Stonewall riots marked a change in attitudes. On the first anniversary of the Stonewall riots, gay pride marches happened in Los Angeles, Chicago, and New York. The fight for liberation wasn't without divisions, though. The LGBTQ movement was always being fraught with racism and transphobia. People of color and trans women were often left out of the movement, including our friends Sylvia and Marcia. The two of them co-founded STAR, which helped... Oh, excuse me, everyone. Sorry about that, guys. I got a phone call from my doctor's office. But let's get back to the story. The two of them co-founded STAR, which helped homeless and trans youth. They were often at demonstrations, marches, and political actions. However, in 1973, Sylvia was asked not to speak at the Christopher Street Liberation Day rally. The march had become more of a celebration and less political. Sylvia stormed the stage and gave a speech about Star House and gay men and women in prison. I believe in us getting our rights, and else I would not be out there fighting for our rights. LGBTQ equality didn't happen overnight. At the Second Congress to Unite Women held in New York City in 1970, Lavender Menace protesters fought against the exclusion of lesbian issues from the feminist movement. Anita Bryant, one of the nation's most prominent anti-gay campaigners, was hit in the face with a pie by Thom Higgins, a gay rights activist, during a 1977 Iowa press conference. In 1977 in San Francisco, Harvey Milk became one of the first openly gay elected officials in San Francisco. The victory was short-lived, however. In 1978, he and San Francisco Mayor George Moscone were assassinated. In 1979, Reverend John Cooper adopted a child with his partner, Roger Hooverman, despite their relationship not being recognized by the state. There are so many ways to influence society for the better, some political, some personal. The Gay Liberation Front published the first issue of Come Out, a newspaper by and for gay community, in 1969. Parents and Friends of Lesbians and Gays, PFLAG, or PFLAG, formed in 1972. On the 10th anniversary of Stonewall in 1979, Randy Rawls and Grady Quinn went to the senior prom together in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. And even though they were strides forward, there were strides backwards too. In the 1980s, the gay community was decimated by the AIDS epidemic. Although AIDS can affect anyone of any gender or sexuality, the prejudice against gay men had a huge political impact on delaying funding for a cure and created a stigma that is still being fought against today. HIV, human immunodeficiency virus, is a virus that attacks the immune system. After the immune system has been compromised, the body cannot fight off certain life-threatening infections, including and leading to a condition called AIDS, acquired immunodeficiency syndrome. Before 1995, with the discovery of new drug therapies, AIDS was almost always fatal. It is much less so now. While many people within and outside of the LGBTQ community were affected, the virus had a huge impact on gay men, and eventually hundreds of thousands of them died. People misunderstood the disease. In fact, they knew very little about it. Activists demanded more medical funding to be focused on HIV and AIDS, yet the Reagan administration and religious conservatives refused to fund the research. The 1980s was a time when many groups within the LGBTQ spectrum came together along with allies to fight and protest to be heard. The survival of their community, of our community, was at stake. People lost their partners, siblings, friends, and loved ones. In 1987, AIDS Coalition to Unleash Power, ACT UP, was a collection of people working to end the AIDS epidemic through direct action, whose demands included medical research and treatment. By 1997, more than 6 million people worldwide had died of AIDS. Nowadays, HIV and AIDS are treatable, and people who are diagnosed with HIV can live long and happy lives. With medication, HIV is untransmittable. This would not be true today if not for thousands and thousands of people who used their time, their energy, their resources, and their creativity to create change through direct action. And the fight isn't over. People are still fighting against HIV discrimination and to make medications more accessible and affordable to all. The LGBTQ movement has had steps forward, steps backwards, and then steps forwards again. We might have gotten the right to marry in 2015, but we're not done fighting for equality. We're back, Jack says. Technology, I've missed you. Thank you, Abuelita. For what? For showing us what it was like, what it was really like in the past. I had no idea folks like me had gone through so many hardships. Hardships and joy, Natalia. I'm not done. I'm going to join my school's GSA. I'm going to help organize a protest against the school's resistance to allow gender-neutral bathrooms. I'm not done either. I'm not done eating. First, I'm going to eat an apple. Then, I'm going to get a burger. And then, I'm going to the library and read more about the intersection between queer liberation and Black Lives Matter. Knowing more about the struggles and fights of the past will help me be more empathetic to what others are going through now, and I can use the strategies of previous activists to inform current actions and protests. Jax, how are you feeling? Stressed, as usual, but I'm eager to take action as well. I saw that protesting isn't the only way to make a statement. I'm going to write to my legislators regarding the things I'm passionate about. I'm going to ask them to ensure that gender-affirming medical care is accessible and available to all. And Natalia, when your protest happens, I'll interview you for the school newspaper. I love that. You are all fired up. Makes me proud to know you. I can't wait to see what you all do. From this window, alone, by myself, in an empty apartment, dusty apartment, alone. Don't worry, Miss Carmen. We'll be back tomorrow, and the next day, and the day after. Oh, fantastic. These boxes aren't going to unpack themselves. See you three at 8 a.m. sharp. As Miss Carmen looks at her old photographs, and she leaves her old photograph right by the window of her and her ex-girlfriend. Author's note: this graphic novel is not 100% true. Much of what we know about the Stonewall Riots comes from oral history, meaning one account might not match another person's description of that night, and sometimes people's narratives contradict each other. This is a common issue with history. Whoever tells the story or documents the story alters the record. There's some playfulness in this particular version. Marsha P. Johnson and Sylvia Rivera did not talk to three kids from the future in Stonewall on that fateful night. My hope is that my account of the Stonewall Riots, the essence, heart, and courage, remains the same as those of the people who were experiencing the riots in 1969. Archie, Bongiovanni. Other LGBTQ resources for youth. The Trevor Project, a national organization providing crisis intervention and suicide prevention services to gay, lesbians, bisexual, transgender, queer, and questioning youth. You can go to thetrevorproject.org. GLSEN works to ensure that LGBTQ students are able to learn and grow in school environments free from bullying and harassment. Go to glsen.org. GSA Network, Trans and Queer Youth Uniting to Fight for Racial and Gender Justice. Go to gsanetwork.org. The Safe Zone Project, an online resource for LGBTQ awareness and ally training workshops. Go to thesafezoneproject.com. A letter to young LGBTQIA activists, written by an activist. Dear young LGBTQIA activists, the truly difficult thing about being an advocate for equality is that the time, tears, and efforts you pour into this important work are an imposition. Even as you refuse to exist as those who hate you say you must, the ability to live in society as freely as cisgender, heterosexual people do will be withheld from you. Even if we achieved equality tomorrow, our history will be defined by our reactions to hate. And in this way, another's toxicity will, at least in part, define who we become, survivors. As Audre Lorde wrote, caring for myself is not self-indulgence, it is self-preservation, and that is an act of political warfare. It is the difficult work of an activist to be aware of one's own needs and boundaries, ensuring that the fire of compassion burns just as bright for our own well-being. That isn't to say that activism is about never inconveniencing oneself. Rather, the goal of activism is to extend respect to yourself even as you extend it to others. In fact, it is this relationship of respect, one of mutual consideration, that is the basis of community, and community is the only power that can truly stand against oppression. Respectfully yours, Christian Williams. Christian Williams is a trans historian and pioneer in addressing the political needs of underserved communities. She started the first trans homeless shelter in Texas and co-founded the first federal-funded Housing First homeless program, pioneered affordable health care for trans people in the Houston area, won the right for trans people to change their gender on Texas ID prior to surgery, started numerous trans social service programs, and funded the Houston Transgender Center as well as the Transgender Archives. And that is the end, my dear friends. I hope that you have enjoyed this historical graphic novel. And please hit that like button, hit that subscribe if you're not already, and leave a comment down below. How did you like this story? Or what affected you the most in this story? I would definitely love to hear that. And as always, my dear friends, may you have a wonderful morning, noon, evening, or night whenever this video reaches you. This has been Ruby, signing off.